Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Welcome to all of you, present and soon to be present. We'll do kirtan. This is a forgiveness kirtan. So with this kirtan you forgive everyone in the world for every bad thing that anyone's ever done. And you pray that everyone forgives you for every bad thing you have ever done. Mridanga. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Dattavara, he says, when compassion will awaken in my heart for every living being, then at that time I can chant the pure holy name. So let's chant the next mantra all together and try to awaken, if we can, or pray to Krishna to awaken compassion for every living being. So we'll open our heart, everyone together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Again, a little louder. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Again, a little louder, more devotion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare So, actually, do we have another table? Have one more table? It's good to keep here. We want to get inspired, I think. When it's time to loosen up. So, in this workshop, we want to not use the holy name, but depend on the holy name to help us. Because as I said, forgiveness is, I don't know if I said it, I thought I said it, but forgiveness doesn't happen with the head, it happens with the what? Heart. Thank you. So sometimes we just need to give our heart to the holy name, and what we can't do, the holy name can do. So periodically we'll have a little kirtan, and we'll open our hearts more, and in that kirtan we'll ask Krishna to allow us to release any enmity, any anger, any resentment, any envy, jealousy we have, to not only the person who we're trying to forgive today, but everyone, and to awaken compassion. One time, Srila Prabhupada said, we should feel the suffering of the other living entities. He used the word feel. We should feel the suffering. When Prabhupada said we should feel the suffering, the way he said it, you could feel that he was feeling the suffering. Just the way he said the word feel. Yes. So, thank you for coming. If you have your sheet from yesterday, you can bring it out. And we've also passed out some new sheets if you didn't get it. These are sheets, these are quotes. If you didn't get it, I think they've all been passed out. Does anybody have any extra? Does anybody see any extra? These sheets lying around, some on a chair or somewhere? Those of you who passed them out, do you have any extras? They're right here. It is entitled Forgiveness Wisdom. If you didn't get one, then Prabhupada will make sure you get one. These are quotations from our scriptures and from other philosophers and writers about forgiveness. And I would like to read some of them now, just to get us more in the mood, and to help us better understand what forgiveness is. So we're going to begin reading from the top. Forgiveness is pleasing to Krishna. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiven. So this makes the point that sometimes we do something even if we don't want to do it, even if it's difficult to do, because we know it's pleasing to Krishna. So sometimes when we're dealing with forgiveness, sometimes it's really a choice between, do I want to punish this person by holding on to resentment, or do I want to please Krishna? What's more important? So, in that sense, we come back to this point that our relationship with another person affects our relationship with Krishna. Because if we're holding on to resentment towards another person, that's not pleasing Krishna. Correct? So maybe sometimes we don't even want to forgive, but we realize Krishna wants us to forgive. That Krishna will be pleased. It's part of our bhakti, our sadhana, to forgive somebody. And we do it for that reason. Because we value more our relationship with Krishna than we value punishing somebody. Correct? I hope we do, don't we? If Krishna came to you and said, it's either me or this person, you can either punish this person or have a relationship with me, I think we would all say, I'll take the relationship with you and forgive this person. Another thing that Prabhupada's saying here, along the same lines, he uses the word duty, the duty of a Brahmin. So we're all very familiar with duty, right? We have duties. What's your duty? What's your dharma? So many of you here are Brahmins, or you want to be Brahmins, or trying to act like Brahmins. So what does duty mean? Again, sometimes duty means you don't always feel like it, but you do it. That's why you have duty. That's why people make vows. Do you know why people make vows? To ensure they do something they may not always feel like doing. Like we make a vow to chant 16 rounds a day. Do you feel like chanting 16 rounds every day of your life? Not always. But why do you do it? Because you made the vow. Sometimes you're married and you feel like one day you get so frustrated you feel like, I just want to leave and never come back. But you can't. Because you're married. You made the vow. In happiness and distress, life and death, better or worse, pain, right? So the concept of duty is sometimes you don't want to do it, but you do it because it's duty. And sometimes we do not want to forgive. But it's, as a Brahmin, cultivating sattva gun, the Brahminical qualities, we do it as a matter of duty. How many of you are Brahmins here? Brahmin initiated? Your duty is to forgive. How many of you would like to be Brahmins? So, your duty will be to forgive. You can start now, acting like a Brahmin. Actually, Prabhupada created this movement to create Brahmins. Because the society needs Brahmins, that's what's lacking. And if there are 1% Paka Brahmins in the world, the whole society will change. How many people live in Guyana?
750,000.
So we just need, what, 75,000 Brahmins? That would change the whole country. How many Brahmins do we have in this country? 50? So we're only 74,950 away. Is that right? Correct? From changing, from making us a completely Krishna conscious country. Anyway, you wanted to say something about this is illuminating like the sun? Forgiveness?
Oh, that's a quote from that. Yes. Actually, when Lord Parashuram had killed the king, who was not only a king but an emperor, Dattavara, then immediately his father Jamadagni came and said, "This is not good," because just get the exact quote right here. He mentioned forgiveness twice, actually. He says, "O great hero, my dear son Parashuram, you have unnecessarily killed the king, who is supposed to be the embodiment of all demigods. You have committed a sin. My dear son, we are all Brahmanas and have become worshipable for people in general because of our quality of forgiveness. It is because of this quality that Lord Brahma, the supreme spiritual master of this universe, has achieved his post." And then he says, "The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased because of those that are forgiving." And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, different personalities become beautiful by possessing different qualities. The cuckoo bird, although very black, is beautiful because of his sweet voice. Similarly, a woman becomes beautiful by her chastity and faithfulness to her husband. And the ugly person becomes beautiful when he becomes a learned scholar. In the same way, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas become beautiful. Brahmanas are beautiful when they are forgiving. So here we see in the Bhagavatam, this is not just, some philosopher quoting or some person here, some intelligent devotee. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in literary form, saying that you become a Brahmana, and you become a qualified Brahmana, and a Brahmana becomes successful because of forgiveness. So without this quality, how can bhakti develop? No, if one is not possessing the quality of forgiveness.
Dhoti, kurta, tirak, kanta, sari, choli, kacha. I am devotee. Just see, I look like devotee. I walk like devotee. I talk like devotee. Bhaktisiddhanta wrote a song, What Kind of Vaishnava? What Kind of Vaishnava Am I? Is that it? I think that was the title. What kind of Vaishnava am I? You know, am I just doing it for show? Or am I actually doing it to please Krishna? The next quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 11th chapter, text 13. The Lord is very satisfied with his devotee when the devotee greets other people with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality. So again, this points to how we treat other people affects our relation with Krishna. You can please Krishna by treating other people with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality. And as we said Friday night, tolerance is sometimes interchanged with forgiveness. It's used as a synonym. It's the same word in many cases. By tolerance we mean forgiveness. Forgiveness we mean tolerance. Now, I also mentioned, and I want to mention it again because it may not be clear. Oh, yes, perfect. Thank you. That I know many devotees are not conscious or aware that how they treat non-devotees affects their relationship with Krishna. I think, okay, here are the devotees, I should be careful. Here's an older devotee, I should be more careful. Here's the guru, I should be really careful. Here's a younger devotee, a little careful, or not too careful. And here's a non-devotee, who cares? It's not uncommon to think that way. And there is some truth to that. Certainly, we do. If you offend a Uttama Vaishnava and you offend some person working in the store, the reaction will be different. But still, it's the consciousness which created the offense that is the problem. Just as much as who you offend, it's the consciousness. So, if there's a consciousness it's okay to offend non-devotees, there's going to be a consciousness that creeps in, it's okay to offend devotees. At least this caliber. I don't offend devotees except up to this caliber. Then above this caliber, they have a saying in Russia, Ukraine. You touch the feet of your superior and you punch the nose of your inferior. That's how you treat them. You know, you go back to your office and you're yelling and screaming at everybody. And then you go to your superior. Yes, yes, sir, whatever you say. You appear very, very humble. And you're a tyrant in the office with people under you. Touch the feet of your superior, punch the nose of your junior, your inferior. Have you ever seen that happen? Yes. Ever seen it happen to yourself? It's a tendency for that. So this is a nice verse. That again, we're back to the same point. Krishna is pleased by how we treat everyone. Right? Oh, there's just some ants. Just walk on them. Who cares? One time there were some ants, and they were on Prabhupada's plate, and they were eating. And so his servant was trying to get rid of them, and Prabhupada said, no, you can leave them. They don't eat that much. It's okay. You heard that story? Yeah.
Another story, Srila Prabhupada was sitting at his desk. He was looking at the flower vase, you know, and so his servant was observing what's Prabhupada doing. And then Prabhupada said, bring some prasadam. So he brought some prasadam. Prabhupada took a small piece, and there was a little bug on the plant. And he put that little piece of prasadam right in front of the bug, and the bug came up and ate. He said he was hungry. He wanted prasadam. So that's the compassion of a pure devotee. You know? And Prabhupada had so many big things to do. Even in Bombay, in Mumbai, Bombay, whatever you want to call it, depending on what generation you're in. When they saw the property for Juhu, then Srila Prabhupada called Giriraj Maharaj and Swaravi. When they were planning, got the property, they were planning it. And right in the middle of everything there was a big tree. And Prabhupada said, whatever you do not cut this tree. And so Swaravi was going crazy, how am I going to build a temple with a tree right in the middle of it? But somehow he did it. So Srila Prabhupada's compassion, and we can learn from that compassion. We may not be able to apply it so, perfectly, but as much as possible. Every example that Srila Prabhupada gave was to inspire us, as we mentioned yesterday, to come to that platform. We shouldn't think, well, I can't do it. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have demonstrated it.
I'm going to tell another ant story and ask Maharaj to give the purport, because I don't know the purport. One disciple was with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, do you see that ant there? And he told him, you have a duty to this ant. You should be aware of your duty to this ant. And the disciple didn't know what he was talking about. And then Prabhupada said, if we can just save this one ant, our whole movement is successful. Can you give the purport?
Well, because if one has that degree of mercy and compassion for such an insignificant living entity, then one can actually spread that compassion to everyone. Otherwise, if we only give our compassion, like a lot of times new devotees, they're very compassionate to their mother and father. Like especially in the U.S., they have Christmas or holiday. People will go, I want to give them some mercy, and then they don't listen. Just the opposite. They, half the time or more than half the time, they contaminate the devotee with their, just total resistance to Krishna consciousness. So by saying that, if you can have compassion for that little ant, then you can actually do Sankirtan and you can chant the holy name properly.
Amazing. Is that amazing? Turn to the devotee next to you and say, Prabhu, that's amazing. So we're going to read the next quote. This is from Yudhishthira Maharaj speaking in the Mahabharata. Somebody may want to do a rap song for this. It's kind of cool. Forgiveness is virtue. Forgiveness is sacrifice, and forgiveness is the Vedas. Forgiveness is purity and penance. It is truth, piety, religion, and the holy Narayana. Through forgiveness, the universe is sustained, and by practicing truth, and by practicing forgiveness, a man can attain to everlasting regions of bliss. Have any rappers here? What? Street rappers. Sweet rappers. I mean, you must have some rappers. Anyway, if there's a rapper out there who wants to do a little performance on Sunday, this is a good one. I'll read it again. Let's read it together. Forgiveness is virtue. Forgiveness is sacrifice. And forgiveness is the Vedas. Forgiveness is purity and penance. It is truth, piety, religion, and the holy Narayana. Through forgiveness, the universe is sustained, and by practicing forgiveness, a man can attain to everlasting regions of bliss. Again from the Mahabharata. This is the sum of duty. Do not do unto others what would cause pain if done to you. So, we have the golden rule. Do unto others as you would like to be done to you, but that doesn't always work, because when I go to the home of an Indian, they cook very spicy, because that's how they like to eat. So they're doing unto me like they like to do to them. So I changed the golden rule because the golden rule doesn't work, especially when you're cooking. But this one works. This is better. Do not do unto others what would cause pain if done to you. Of course, that hot sabji doesn't cause them pain, so they don't know. But the Prabhupada used to preach this way, about animal slaughter. Well, it's causing pain. If it cause you pain, don't you think it will cause them pain? So, we had mentioned the other day, that Jiva Goswami said, if you're envious, that envy will not cause pain to anyone until you speak. And when you speak words of envy, then it causes pain. And in the Bhagavatam, there's a verse when Lord Shiva was being condemned by Prajapati Daksha, his words were piercing her heart, like arrows in the heart. So, if we speak ill of another person, it's piercing to their heart. And if you speak ill about another person, not directly to them, generally somehow or other, by the law of tell a devotee, it gets to that person. So don't think you're safe. And so I once heard a very nice thing, a very nice meditation. Has that ever happened to you? You said something to somebody about somebody else and it got back to the somebody else? That somebody else wasn't too happy. So he said something to somebody else about you, and that somebody else got back to you, and this whole war was going on, and you never even spoke to one another. So it's highly likely. But I read this one thing that helped me and deal with this. It said, whenever you speak about somebody, speak about them as if they were there. You're talking about so-and-so did this or that. Just pretend like they're there listening to you. What would you say? Probably not what you were just about to say. And that really helps. I think, if they would not appreciate me saying this in front of them, I probably shouldn't say it behind their back. Yes?
Another quote from the Bhagavatam. This is from the song of the Avanti Brahman. Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men.
Does that mean only uncivilized men speak harsh words? Or harsh words spoken by uncivilized men?
What that means is people who speak harsh words are uncivilized men.
Now you want to hear something really interesting. You remember in the Bhagavatam when Bhishma was dying, he had the benediction that he could die whenever he wanted. And so he asked Krishna to come, so he could be seeing Krishna on his deathbed. And Krishna knew that Bhishma was so wise that he brought Yudhishthira to him. He said, Yudhishthira, you listen to what Bhishma has to say. And Bhishma listed 9 qualifications of a human being, what he considered a civilized human being. And one of them was forgiveness. One of them was not to become angry. That's what he considered civilized. What would categorize you as a human being as opposed to a 2-legged animal. He listed other qualities. But not becoming angry and resentful, considered a human quality. Now, we've just been talking about how it's a Brahminical quality, how it's a very elevated quality, and here he's saying, actually, it's a quality of a human being. Interesting, isn't it? Sometimes when we look at these qualifications, we wonder, have I entered the human species yet? I'm still working on it. Still working on becoming a human. Chinese proverb. Deal with the faults of others as gently as with your own. Okay, I'm going to tell you something interesting. When you see somebody do something that you don't appreciate, have you ever seen anybody do something you don't appreciate, you think is wrong? You judge the other person by what they did. Have you ever done anything wrong? I once did something wrong. I once made one mistake in my life. I thought I made a mistake, but I was wrong. That was the only mistake I ever made. So, do we ever make mistakes? Of course we make mistakes, right? When we make a mistake, we think, my intention was to do good, but I did bad. So when we look at our mistakes, we judge them based on what we were trying to do, what our intention was. But when we look at another person, we look at it in terms of what they did. We don't think about what they were trying to do, or the circumstances they were in. Why did they do that? Maybe they had no other choice. Maybe they had a bad day. But we don't see that. Maybe they were actually trying to do something good and they didn't know how to do something good. But we just judge them based on what they did. But we don't judge ourselves that way. We judge ourselves, no, I was trying to do something good.
I always think of that when driving in traffic. You know, sometimes you're looking for an address, you know, like looking at the buildings, you're going slow, everybody's behind you. And you think, don't they know, you know? And then you get behind somebody, they're going slow, and you're thinking,
Next we're going to read, I don't know who wrote this. Graciousness is shown by what you don't say, even if what you could say would be true. Graciousness is shown by what you don't say, even if what you could say is true, or would be true. Somebody does something horrible, you could say some horrible things to them, but you don't. Now, I mean, sometimes you might, but for a devotee wants to encourage others, not discourage. And one of the best ways we encourage others is by our words. And one of the best ways we discourage others is by our words. So, just because somebody did something wrong doesn't give you a right to say something that might be very upsetting, disturbing, and discouraging. Right? Because you want to judge on the basis of what will produce the best result, what would be most encouraging. Sometimes we have to correct somebody, okay. But sometimes you can correct somebody in a way that they're discouraged, and sometimes you can correct them in a way they're encouraged. Right? So, just because they did something wrong doesn't mean you have free right to say whatever you want. But you have to look at the result. Now, a lot of us like to chastise. Any of you like to chastise? Like to get heavy when somebody does something wrong? Okay, close your eyes. All of you who like to chastise, raise your hand. Okay. A lot. Those of you who are parents, you might like to chastise your kids. The older brothers like to chastise the younger brothers. If you're a teacher, you like to chastise the students. So that's a kind of cultural phenomenon. You know, maybe your father always chastised you, your brother always chastised. So you just continue, you just figure, just chastise. When I was a new devotee, everybody chastised me. So when I got a position of power, I chastised everybody else. Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Because that's how I was trained. It's not my nature to do that, but I did it. Anyway, for whatever reason we like to chastise, ultimately, we want to look at the result, which is to encourage. So if ever you could say something and you don't, then you're showing mercy. Sometimes people would do something wrong, but they were sincere, and Prabhupada would appreciate their sincerity and would say, thank you very much for doing this, even if it was done wrong. What do you think of that? Interesting, isn't it? He's encouraging the sincerity. And later on, 6 months or so, then he can talk about externally how to improve it. Because he could see some devotees at some point were not ready to hear that. And many devotees were very, very young and immature, and he could say something, they could get so upset that they left. Actually, one time, Prabhupada told a devotee to go away. He got so upset with him, he said, go away. I don't want to see you. How would you like to be told that by your guru? And the devotee actually left. And then Prabhupada said, where's so-and-so? And they had to go out and find him, or he came back like midnight, and the next day Prabhupada said, why were you at the program? And he says, Prabhupada, you told me to leave. And Prabhupada said, I didn't mean to leave. Okay. Okay, the next one is called Forgiveness Releases the Past. Forgiveness is the release of all hope for a better past. I'll read that again because that's confusing. Forgiveness is the release of all hope for a better past. What does that mean? Who can explain that? Maharaj wants to explain it, but here he knows what it means because he's smart. Anybody else know what it means? To release, to give up all hope for a better past. Who can explain that? I know somebody can explain it. Okay, Maharaj will explain it.
Actually, there's no question of having a better past. Because you can't change the past. And the only way you can really have a better past is to forgive. Then that past which is haunting you, which is pulling you down, which is like a weight, which is like a bag of potatoes. If you don't have a bag of potatoes, maybe they start smelling. Oh, there they are. Okay, good. You have them on hand. So, in one sense, the hope for a better past, without forgiveness, it's impossible. It's impossible to have a better past. And, of course, and as far as the details go, you can't change the past. But you can change your perception of the past by forgiving. Then it won't be weighing you down and hurting you and causing all kinds of problems and complexes within the mind.
You can have a better future. There's another saying, the past, that forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it changes the future. And so what it means is, you have an event in your life and it's affecting you now, and for many of you, you think it's going to affect you your whole life. But by forgiving, it changes. And that your future changes. Nice, huh? You're not condemned to carry that with you the rest of your life. Okay, this is a poem by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee, and progress ye thee shall call. Forgiveness is an act of the imagination. It dares you to imagine a better future, one that is based on the blessed possibility that your hurt will not be the final word on the matter. In other words, what happened to you will not control your life for the rest of your life. You can change that. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge the future. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. You like that? Forgiveness is not always reasonable. Forgiveness is giving up the resentment to which you are entitled and offering to the person who hurt you friendlier attitudes to which they are not entitled. Forgiveness is often illogical and unnatural because you are confronted with forgiving and unforgivable act. Yet anger, blame, and revenge only make your pain worse. Forgiveness is the only medicine that will relieve your pain. Consciousness is shown by what you don't say, even if what you could say would be true. Oh, we had that. It was similar. Yeah, graciousness. Yeah. And editing mistake here. Okay. You want to read some more? Who wants to read more? Who doesn't want to read more? Who doesn't care? We'll read a little more. If you're not awake, raise your hand. If this will make you feel any better, I did a workshop in May, just outside of Delhi, India, and it was probably like 106 degrees and there was no air conditioning. Does that make you feel cooler? Could you imagine? What is it? What's it now? Like 95? What? Not even? 92? 93? That's all? So like at least 105, at least. No air conditioning. Anger makes you smaller, while forgiveness forces you to grow beyond what you were. God designs an enemy to keep us on our toes and on our knees. Loving an enemy defies natural explanation. To attempt to do so brings us to the supernatural realm. So what this point is making is if you try to forgive, it forces you to become very Krishna conscious. It's just like, it's the only way you're going to do it. The hardest things, the ones that push you up against your limits, are the very things that you need to address to make a quantum leap into a fresh inner and outer life. Okay, here's a letter from Prabhupada. We must always remember this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, and be as tolerant as the tree as we execute Krishna consciousness. Without this mentality, we cannot be successful. That's amazing. Why is Prabhupada saying that? Because not everybody appreciates Krishna consciousness, and if we're not tolerant, we won't be able to give it. Because people will harass us, agitate us. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to do some work. Are we ready to do some work? Or are we ready to go to sleep? A little of both? So, it's time to go to our workbooks. And if you go to this section, you go to the exercise number 5, visualize your pain. If you go below that to the next section, it says forgiving is not always logical. Okay. Forgiveness is giving up the resentment to which you are entitled and offering to the person who hurt you friendlier attitudes to which they are not entitled. We just read that. That's not logical. Why would you be friendly and kind to someone who hurts you? We often find it difficult to forgive because we look for logical reasons to forgive someone who has hurt us, who has hurt, betrayed, offended, or abused us. And we don't find any. However, it's common to find many valid reasons to not forgive. We may also find valid reasons to seek revenge. When we say, I just can't forgive, it's likely we mean, I can't find any reason to forgive. After all, how can we forgive an unforgivable act? Does that make sense? If in your mind you've been hurt to such a degree that in your mind you think this is an unforgivable act, then how can you ever forgive it? Because you've defined it as unforgivable. Does that make sense? Like, let's say you're 5 years old and your father just leaves. No money, your mother doesn't have a job, you have 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and you think that's an unforgivable act. That is so bad, it is so wrong, it's unforgivable. It can't get worse than that. So you're using your logical thinking, and in your logical thinking, you're thinking, I cannot give up my resentment. I can't see how to do it, or why to do it, or why I'd even want to do it. We can't approach forgiveness from a logical point of view, because if we do, we'll never forgive, because it goes beyond logic. Was it logical when they crucified Christ that he forgave them? Is that logical? It defies logic, doesn't it? Completely. Thakur Haridas, Prahlad Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj comes. Durvasa Muni comes. Ambarish Maharaj greets him. Says, Maharaj, let me prepare a meal for you and your few disciples. How many few disciples did he have to cook for? 60, 50 or 60? Was it 50? 60. 10,000. Oh, only 10,000, no problem. You just whip up something, Yeah, no problem. We'll just whip up something in the kitchen for 10,000 disciples. And Durvasa says, good. We'll all go take bath, and we'll come back. How long does it take to take bath and cook for 10,000 people? I don't know. But anyway, as the story goes, Maharaj Ambarish was doing a fast, and he needed to break his fast at that point. And he was going to have to break his fast before Durvasa and his disciples were going to eat, and that would be an offense for a guest to eat, for the householder to eat before his guest. What to do? He consulted some Brahmins, consulted Krishna in his heart. He came to understand that if you drink water, it can be considered breaking a fast, and it can be also considered not breaking a fast. So Durvasa had mystic power, and he knew that Ambarish Maharaj did that. So he came back, and he was very upset. And he was beyond very upset. He was many stages beyond upset. In fact, he got so angry, he wanted to kill Maharaj Ambarish. And he tried. Fortunately, Maharaj Ambarish was protected by Krishna. Long story, Krishna convinced Durvasa, if you want to get free from the offense of offending Maharaj Ambarish, because not that Durvasa was able to kill Ambarish Maharaj, but everything backfired, and now Durvasa was going to be killed by the very demon he created to kill Ambarish Maharaj. He went to Krishna. Krishna said, ask for forgiveness for Maharaj Ambarish. I cannot forgive you. So he asked for forgiveness. Who knows what Maharaj Ambarish said when he was asked for forgiveness? Who knows? After Durvasa created a monster to kill him, what did he say? Who knows?
He expressed he regretted that he had offended his guest by not giving him hospitality.
Yeah. So, now from the logical point of view, does that make sense? Somebody tries to kill you, no. Really, you haven't offended me. Now, here's the interesting thing. Could you imagine, you had a guest in your house, you say, Mahatma's coming to Guyana and he needs a place to stay. I said, oh, I'd be honored if he stays. And you make some prasadam and I eat it and I go, this is horrible. And I go in the kitchen and get a knife and run after you with the knife. And I get this close to killing you and your husband comes and pulls me away. You'd probably want me to leave, right? Like immediately, right? Like you'd probably want to call the police and get me to the airport and out of the country on the next flight or in the nearest prison, jail, right? After this whole incident with Durvasa trying to kill Ambarish Maharaj, creating a demon that could have killed many people, it was all resolved. Ambarish Maharaj said, no problem, everything's cool. Please come in my house and sit down and we'll feed you. Could you imagine feeding somebody peacefully who just tried to kill you? Does that make sense? You might be a little bit in anxiety when you're serving them, that you might commit an offense. What to speak of just having to deal with somebody who just tried to kill you, it could be a little difficult. This defies logic, doesn't it? It totally defies material logic. So when we're approaching higher levels of compassion and mercifulness, it defies material logic. There was one morning walk. Devotee asked Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, does the Guru accept the karma of the disciple? And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, do not accept many disciples. And then Prabhupada said, but we accept many disciples for the service of Mahaprabhu. Then Prabhupada said, devotee thinks, let me go to hell to save other people. Now, how many people will say that? How many people will sacrifice themselves? Say, let me go to hell for someone else. Not logical, is it? Imagine you come home, you tell your parents, I've decided to sacrifice my life to go to hell to save other people. They'll call a psychiatrist. Isn't it? Seriously. So this high level of compassion is illogical. And the point is, we get caught up in that because we're trying to figure out how to forgive, but we're looking at it from a logical point of view. And when you look at it logically, you don't find any good reasons. He hurt me, she hurt me, repeatedly hurt me, she ruined my life, he ruined my life. I can't think of one reason why I should forgive them. And there's not, you don't need a material reason, because you won't find it. Maybe just to help yourself is the only reason, to get it off of your chest. All the reasons are transcendental, and they defy material logic. So let's look further. We find that great acts of forgiveness, great forgiveness cause people to transcend their human condition and defy logic. Once, a mother whose son was killed by a juvenile gang member broke down with sympathy for this distraught youth when she first met him in prison. Instead of letting her anger loose by letting him know in minute detail how he had ruined her life, something came over her. Something came over her. When she saw this so-called tough boy huddled in a corner with his hands over his face, overcome with intense guilt, shame, and remorse, her motherly affection overcame her, and she went straight up to him and hugged him and comforted him. She became so close to him and such a source of support for him that the relationship grew so strong that she eventually adopted him. Is that amazing? This is the boy that killed her son, a gang member. Killed him for no reason. He was sentenced. I don't know, he's a juvenile, so maybe not sentenced for life. She came, the court allowed her to come see him in the prison so she could just vent and tell him how she ruined his life. And she saw him in that distraught condition. She turned around. She broke down and hugged him. Because she understood, something hit her and she said, this boy, his childhood, how bad it must have been. He's got no love in his life, no mother, no father to take care of him. That's why he was in a gang. That's why he did this. She felt so sorry for him. She broke down. And she became his support. And this has happened many times. Is that illogical? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, from the first canto of the Bhagavatam, when Ashvatthama killed the sons of the Pandavas, then Draupadi was totally distraught. When they brought Ashvatthama before her, she actually pleaded. She showed the logic of the illogic, in the sense that, by higher consciousness, by higher thinking, he said, I'm a mother of these young children, and I've suffered so much that they're dead. Now, how much would the wife of our Guru suffer if her son is killed? I know that pain. How can I possibly wish that pain on anyone else? And that act of compassion and forgiveness and tolerance was actually what, of course, Bhima and Krishna were saying, kill him. And then Arjuna thought, and Krishna said, kill him, and told Arjuna to kill him and satisfy Draupadi at the same time. So, of course, he figured out by his great intelligence how to insult him, that killed him, and at the same time didn't take away his life. So this is the logic within the supposed illogical situation.
Jai. Draupadi. Amazing. Of course, acts of extraordinary forgiveness abound in Shastra. Prasad Maharaj, Jesus Christ, Ambarish Maharaj, Nityananda Prabhu, Thakur Haridas. You should have Draupadi there. Are exemplars of forgiveness to such a degree that they totally forgave those who tried to kill them. Yet, if we search deeper for a logical reason to forgive, we'll find one. Anger, blame, and revenge make our pain worse. Forgiveness is the only medicine that can relieve us. So, this is the material logic. That if we have pain because of what has been done to us, forgiveness is the only pain reliever. It's the only way we'll become free. There isn't another way. There is also transcendental logic to forgiveness. It is the nature of a devotee to be merciful, and his mercy is not dependent on how he is treated. Being merciful is just who he is. Nice quote from Mark Twain. You know who Mark Twain is? You read Mark Twain in this country? No? Yes? You do? The older ones don't, the younger ones do. It's a famous author. He says, "Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it." So you step on a flower with your heel, you squish it to a pulp, and then it gives you a fragrance. So you are hurt, you are harmed, you are wounded in some way. But because you're a devotee, the logic of a devotee is the fragrance that you give out is kindness, compassion, mercy. Would you like to hear a story? Okay. You may know this story. It's the sadhu and the scorpion. Now the interesting thing is, some of these stories that Prabhupada tells, or that we hear in Bhagavatam classes, I've read in other books, like Buddhist books. And they don't all come from our tradition, although we think they are. And they're told in different ways. So the main principle is the same. So in India, during the rainy season, there's a lot of flooding in places where normally the land is never flooded. So then if you're going from one place to another, sometimes you have to walk through a flooded area. And I think that happens here also. Yeah, so you know what it's like. So maybe you're walking to the house back there, and now you're walking through 5 feet of water until the rainy season is over. So this sadhu, only 5 feet? It's more. So this sadhu is, he's walking through one of these flooded areas to get from one side to the other, and he sees a scorpion. And scorpions, they bite. That's their nature. And they're land animals. They can't get across the water. But because of the flood, the scorpion's caught in the water. So the sadhu, he's walking across and he thinks, well, why don't I just pick up the scorpion and then I can take him to the land. So the sadhu picks up the scorpion. What do you think happened to the sadhu when he picked up the scorpion? He bit it. And then what do you think he did when he bit it? When he was bitten?
Drop it.
What do you think he did? Dropped it. Like this. There's the scorpion. Dropped it. But then, guess what he did again?
Pick it up again.
He picked it up. And guess what he did again?
Drop it up.
And what did he say when he dropped it? He didn't say Om, he said, ow! Well, it depends what kind of sadhu he was. I don't know if he cursed or whatever. No, I don't think he cursed. He said, ow. He was an actual sadhu. He picked it up again. Same scenario. Finally, he puts the scorpion down on the land. The scorpion runs off. There's a man sitting on the bank, not on the bank, sitting on the other side of the pond, and he watched the whole scene, and he couldn't figure out why this sadhu kept picking up a scorpion and the scorpion kept biting him. So he said, Sadhu, I watched what you were doing. I don't understand. He's biting you. You're picking him up again and again and again. Why? So the sadhu said, every time I pick up the scorpion, he bit me, even though I was trying to help him. Because that's the nature of a scorpion. So he said, if the scorpion won't give up his nature to bite, even though I'm trying to help him, why should I give up my nature to be kind, even though he's biting me? So that's the transcendental logic of forgiveness. That a devotee is kind. He doesn't give up his kindness because someone else wasn't kind. Interesting point, isn't it? just after slavery was abolished in America, there was one slave who raised himself and became a political figure in America. His name was, I forgot. Not Martin Luther King, this was like 1860 or so. It's probably on this list of quotes. Maybe I can find it. I can only find it when I'm not looking for it. Okay, here it is. It's in the last page, number 4. His name is Booker T. Washington. Right in the middle. I want to read this quote. It's amazing. Before I read this quote, I want to tell you what he was asked. You know, he's a slave. So now he's working in politics with the very people that kept him enslaved, who passed the laws to keep him enslaved. So they asked him, how do you do that? How do you feel about that? Now you're working with the people who kept you as a slave, and your parents and grandparents. He replied, it's right in the middle of the page, I shall not allow any man to belittle my soul. Page 4, last page. Well, I don't know if it's the last page. Second to last page, I'm sorry. Page 4, so see the page number on the bottom right? And you go right to the middle of the page. We're reading from Forgiveness, Wisdom. That's where we've been reading, if you don't. So he says, pay attention. I shall not allow any man to belittle my soul by making me hate him. In other words, he's saying, I'll not allow anybody to bring me down by acting towards them the way they've acted towards me. Is that nice? Otherwise, that sadhu would have taken that scorpion and maybe just squished him. Said, you're going to bite me? Well, how do you like this? So, we often do that, right? Somebody is trying to bring us down, and we are responding with down consciousness. We're coming down to their level and fighting with them. So the sadhu, he responds from up here, because that's his nature. Now, I want to ask you a question. What are some symptoms of this higher consciousness, aside from forgiveness? What would be some other symptoms of a sadhu? Yeah. Friendly. Tolerant. Humble. Like you. Simplicity. Grateful. Forgiveness. So you can see these are all qualities of someone whose consciousness is purified. It's elevated. It's up here. And so, what are the qualities of consciousness which is low?
Lack of
selfishness.
Lack of self-confidence.
Lack of self-confidence. Pride. Envy. Revenge. Guilty. Angry. They get back at you. Have you ever responded to a person with low consciousness yourself?
Yes.
So as devotees, we are learning, hopefully, to respond from a higher consciousness, which kind of answers the question you keep asking. Do these people come with low consciousness, and to deal with them, you want to be in low consciousness, but we don't want to allow them to bring us down. We may have to deal with them in the way they need to be dealt with, but not from a platform of low consciousness ourselves. Where do you want to be? What part of the chart you want to be? The high end or the low end? How do you want to respond? So sometimes Krishna is going to challenge us, right? He's going to bring a low consciousness person to us who's going to say things or do things that could very easily bring us from 16 good rounds in the morning right down to the mode of ignorance, where we respond like the scorpion. So the reality is we have that nature because we're not purified. We can go from the lower. We can respond from the lower. Can't we? We know that. We can. We've done it many times. But we're trying to respond from a higher consciousness. So let's go back to this. I want to read some stories that inspire us. Some more stories about something illogical. It's an interesting story because this is right from our own movement. So, this is about the sannyasi guru GVC. The same one, but someone else's story. So, we'll just call him sannyasi. Okay? Sannyasi was so cruel to me many years ago. He tore my family apart. As a result, my daughter was brainwashed to become poisoned against me with lies and fear tactics. And still, to that time, we were completely estranged and had me threatened with bodily harm. Can you believe that? My offense was standing up and saying, said something innocent, but it was taken to be a huge offense. I was excommunicated from the temple 30 years ago. When my wife and I went to Rath Yatra in 2008 in Los Angeles, we were in the gift shop of the LA temple. All of a sudden, sannyasi appeared there in front of me. He was no longer a sannyasi. Can you imagine? I mean, this person is extremely hurt, and there is sannyasi 30 years later. The person who she feels is responsible for tearing apart her family. All of a sudden, he appeared there right in front of me. He said to me, "You look familiar. I'm sure I know you, right?" I reminded him not only of who I was, but what he had done to me all those years. Tears filled his eyes, and getting down on his knees, clasping my feet, he said, "I'm so sorry. I hurt so many people. How can I ever make up for it? What could I ever do to deserve forgiveness?" I lifted him up, put my arms around him, tears now filling my own eyes, and said, "I forgive you, I forgive you." All those years he was the only person I ever held animosity in my heart towards. I had never gotten over it, losing my daughter, her mother, being allowed to perpetrate this mind control. At that moment, a great weight lifted from my heart. Forgiving him, the animosity had not only hurt me, The animosity had only hurt me. I left that meeting feeling that Krishna had sent me to Rath Yatra. I hadn't been there for 20 years, just for that meeting. He had changed. His apology was sincere. I felt in my heart. 5 months later, my daughter contacted me, after 28 years of being apart. The rest is history, or should I say, a lesson in Krishna's mercy. So it was kind of a moment where everything melted, right? There was no logic there anymore. It was just spontaneously he forgave. That's how it works. You want to hear some more stories? Only 3 people want to hear? Okay, the rest of you can go out. The 3 of you can stay. A man shouted at Prabhupada during a darshan and had to be hustled out of the room. The devotees were quite unnerved and began to speculate as to the offender's future. Would he be sent to some hellish planet? These are the devotees, talking. What's going to happen to this poor fellow? Would he be born in a decrepit condition here on earth? How would he become free of his offense? After the discussion went back and forth for a few minutes, Srila Prabhupada looked up and offered, we could forgive him. An option that nobody had thought of. Interesting, huh? Because everyone was using their logical thinking. Right? Okay, here's a really good one. You want to hear a really good one? Really good. Okay. In America, in the South, there's a lot of prejudice amongst black people, even up to the 1960s. And the schools were segregated, and the black kids went to their own schools, and the white kids went to their own schools. In America, that time there were basically only whites and blacks. I don't even think Mexicans. There were very few at that time, right? In California, where she was, Louisiana or somewhere. So, they wanted to integrate modern times, but the prejudice was so strong that when the school finally said, okay, it's an all-white school, black kids can come, none of the black kids wanted to go. They were frightened. Because down there, in the South of America at that time, they were very prejudiced, very racist, and they could get violent. Anyway, so here's the story. A 6-year-old girl in New Orleans is the first black student to attend a mixed school after apartheid. So this is right after desegregation, integration. She's the first girl going to this school. Would you like to be the first black girl going to that school?
Yeah.
Would you like to be the second? The white people were so disturbed that a black girl was going to school that was formerly an all-white school, that she had to be escorted into school by federal marshals. These are not just policemen. These are like, when the governor goes out, something like that, right? These are like top security. The white students boycotted the school. It means none of the white students went to school that day. And there were mobs of people protesting and screaming at her every day when she went to and left school. How'd you like that? Could you imagine what they were screaming? We can't say it in the temple room, but you could imagine. Every bad word you could think of, to a 6-year-old girl. When she was going in and when she was going out, the federal marshals could see her whispering something to herself. So they asked her. When asked what she was saying, she said, I am praying to God to forgive them. When asked why she would do that, she said, "Don't you think they need to be forgiven?" Does that make sense? A 6-year-old would think like that? What's the logical way of thinking? Call the thugs. Call the gangs. Go to these people's homes and say, "You come out there tomorrow. You better, make a reservation at the cemetery before you come, because that's where you're going to be going." Isn't that the logical way? Okay, would you like to hear another story? Who would like to hear another story? Take a break after this, what? We're going to take a break after this. A young man was once flirting. You know what flirting is? Flirting, you go up to a girl. "Hey cutie, want to have a drink?" That's flirting. "When I look in your eyes, I see the moon. It's just like crystal water flowing down the Jamuna. My heart opens like a lotus." That in Hindi movies, right? Is every song in the Hindi movies like that? A young man was once flirting with a girl in a bar. He began touching her, and this so enraged the girl, she pulled out a knife. Moments later, she stabbed him to death. Can you imagine? Guys, be careful. It's a true story. She spent the rest of her life in jail, miserably living with the guilt of having killed someone who had a whole life ahead of them. Obviously, she went crazy. I mean, why would she carry a knife if she wasn't crazy in the first place? And so she lost it, and now she has to live with this guilt the rest of her life. What did I do? I just killed a boy. I ended a young man's life. But there was one woman who somehow took compassion on this murderer. She regularly visited her in prison to help her deal with her grief and support her in any way she could. The person who helped this girl was a most unlikely candidate for the job. Who do you think it was? What? What? Yeah. The boy's mother. How did you say that? Boy mother? The boy mother? I just didn't understand. Hare Krishna. So isn't that amazing? It's like the other story. It's like totally illogical. Isn't it? Does it make sense? How did you know it was the boy's mother? It's so illogical, that's the only thing you can think of, right? Okay. If I stay here too long, I'll be talking like you guys. Oh yes, you can talk faster. If you say boy's mother, it takes too much energy. Boy mother is faster. Right? So yeah, now I understand. It's a more efficient language. Take out a few verbs also, be hungry. Save more time. On March 23rd, 1995, my 17-year-old daughter Nicole opened the door of her father's house to a 16-year-old young man named Levon, whom she knew. Levon came into the house and they began to argue over drugs. Lavan picked up the butcher knife from the kitchen and stabbed Nicole to death. My only child lay dying on the floor of the living room, her eyes still open. The last sight she saw that day was the face of the young man who was killing her. The young man whom I had never met in my life came into my life that day and changed my life forever. I waited 1 year to be faced with a young man who had changed my life. In other words, through the court system, he could finally meet him a year later. He was hostile and angry during the trial. My greatest fear was that he would get the death penalty and that I would then have to fight to never allow that to happen. He didn't want him to die. But God knew that wasn't how He wanted me to spend my time. Lavan was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 38 years with no probation. God had other plans for my life. Lavan still looked angry when he was sentenced 2 weeks later. Only now he was sitting right next to me as I stood at the podium to address the court and the judge. But I was warned not to address Lavan. So the sentence was made. He's sentenced to 38 years in prison, no probation. And now the father was addressing the court, and this boy was standing next to him. Pretty heavy, right? Should I tell you what he said? Or should we just end here?
No.
I was warned not to address Lavan. I was told I couldn't speak to this person who had changed my life forever, and he was sitting right next to me. I began reading what I had written, and then God spoke to my heart. I needed to talk to this young man. It might be my only opportunity. I turned and looked into his face. This was the face that my daughter saw as she lay dying on the living room floor just 1 year ago. And now I was looking into that same face. I told Lavan that I was not angry at him, but that I felt very hurt. I told him that I had compassion for him and that I hoped that he could somehow find a way to turn his life around. And lastly, I told him that I would be praying for him. The face that was so full of anger was now looking at me in disbelief, and the anger was gone. When I walked away from the courthouse that day, I knew God had given both of us a gift. It was the gift of forgiveness. I was able to forgive the young man who murdered my daughter. Not because he asked me to, but because it was what God wanted for both of us. God was never going to be able to use me if I was angry. Forgiveness brings peace, and with that peace comes overwhelming joy. The joy of knowing that God will forgive me just as I have forgiven. Amazing, isn't it? Would you like to hear another story? I'm going to let you out of here in a minute. Don't worry. I won't keep saying, do you want to hear another story until 8 o'clock tonight. But stories are important because philosophy goes to the head, stories go to the heart. And so the head and the heart work together. One evening, an old Cherokee, a Cherokee is an American Indian, told his grandson about a battle that goes inside of people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other wolf is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, and faith." Does that make you feel good? Just hearing that? Yeah, it did, right? The grandson thought about it for a moment and then asked his grandfather, which wolf wins? So what was the original? There are two wolves inside and there's a battle going on. So he wants to know which wolf wins. The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed. So which wolf are you feeding? Should we make a t-shirt? When somebody joins ISKCON, so you have to wear this shirt. Which wolf are you feeding? The good wolf or the bad wolf? Okay, I'm going to read it. We told the story earlier, but I want to read the whole story. There's just a few more stories. Only about 60 or 70 more. No, only two, I think. 2 or 3. I recently read the testimony of a mother who experienced the spontaneous movement of forgiveness in a most unlikely circumstance. Her 20-year-old son had been beaten to death in a street fight. His assailant was tried and sentenced to a long prison term. The mother asked to meet with him after his sentencing because she wanted the satisfaction of telling him to his face how much she hated him for what he had done. When she was ushered into the holding room, when she was to meet the boy, he was standing in a corner, shackled. Shackled means he had handcuffs, or those of you who spent time in prison can describe this better than I can. He was shackled with some chains, sitting in a corner, and he was crying. The woman said later, as I watched that boy so forlorn, no parents, no friends, no support, all I saw was another mother's son. This is the boy that beat her son to death. Without thinking, she heard herself saying, can I give you a hug? She says that when she felt his body against hers, her anger literally melted away. What arose instead was a natural feeling of tender connection with this suffering human being. That amazing story speaks to what forgiveness really is. A spontaneous and natural uprush of peaceful letting go, even of tenderness. The woman has no idea where her ability to forgive her son's killer came from. She says she couldn't have imagined ever coming close to having such a feeling. She treasures the peace it gave her. She called it a gift from God. I call it an opening of the soul. The point is, heartfelt forgiveness, the natural spontaneous opening to someone who has hurt you, is not something that the ego can make happen. The separatist, culturally conditioned ego self, formed by thousands of years of judgment and vengeance, demands punishment as the price of forgiveness. When your heart forgives, it has, as the price of resentment, I think. When your heart forgives, it is step beyond the ego to grasp your innate kinship, even your identity with another person. So you can see what it takes to forgive. It's not easy, right? Okay. Okay, so my last story. This is funny, and this is cool. Have any taxi drivers here? Raise your hand if you're a taxi driver. This story's for you. One day I hopped in a taxi and we took off for the airport. We were driving in the right lane when suddenly a black car jumped out of a parking space right in front of us. My taxi driver slammed on his brakes, skidded, and missed the other car by just inches. The driver of the other car whipped his head around and started yelling at us. My taxi driver just smiled and waved at the guy. And I mean, he was really friendly. So I asked, yo, dude, what's going on here? So I asked, why did you do that? That guy almost ruined your car and sent us to the hospital. This is when my taxi driver taught me what I now call the law of the garbage truck. You write this down in your notes, the law of the garbage truck. What did Mahatma teach you? He taught us the law of the garbage truck. He explained that many people are like garbage trucks. They run around full of garbage, full of frustration, full of anger, and full of disappointment. As their garbage piles up, they need a place to dump it, and sometimes they'll dump it on you. Don't take it personally. Just like in India, we were living on the ground floor, so people upstairs would dump garbage, sometimes on us. But we knew it wasn't purposeful, so no problem. Just as their garbage piles up, they need a place to dump it, and sometimes they'll dump it on you. Don't take it personally. Just smile, wish them well, and move on. Don't take their garbage and spread it to other people at work, at home, or on the streets. In other words, they're throwing your garbage and you're catching it, put it in your pocket. Go home and yell at your wife or whatever. The bottom line is that successful people do not let garbage trucks take over their day. Life's too short to wake up in the morning with regrets. Love the people who treat you right and pray for the ones who don't. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Life is 10% what happens, 90% how you respond. Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to take a break for 13 minutes. It's now 3:02 on my watch. Is there a clock in here? So we'll come back at 3:15. You want to get some water. Big mothers, little mothers, and everyone in between. We want to chant the holy name, open our heart to the holy name, beg Krishna to help us. Become free from our tendency to hold on to grudges, to want to seek revenge for something that was done to hurt us. But rather we want to pray to Krishna to always be, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, do the greatest good to our worst enemy. To always want the best, the highest welfare for our worst enemy. That's what it means to be a devotee. Does anybody want to leave ISKCON now that you know what it means to be a devotee? We use the holy name to help us. Okay? So let's give ourselves fully to the holy name in prayer. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Everybody together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Thank you for chanting so nicely, with so much devotion and bhakti. And I just wanted to remind everyone the fire pit is still open for business. It's accepting applications. Hare Krishna. So we're going to do a little exercise now. Yesterday, or was it Friday, you remember we spoke about the Amish people and how the Amish people reacted to a tragedy in their community in which 9 of their girls were shot, 5 of them were killed, and they responded that very evening of the murder with forgiveness. And we had a discussion about this, and in that discussion we said that often much of what we think we believe or what we are supposed to believe in our actions, it appears we don't believe it. That there seems to be sometimes a contradiction between what we say we are, who we say we are, and what we do. Remember that discussion we had? So, right now, I would like you to write down on a separate piece of paper what you believe. Like you could write down, I believe chanting Hare Krishna is the most important activity of my life. I believe in serving the Vaishnavas. I believe in Krishna. Whatever it is you believe, I want you to write that down on a piece of paper. Just title the paper, What I Believe. It's not what you're supposed to believe, it's what you believe. Okay? I know I'm supposed to believe that I should touch everyone's feet, but I may not believe in doing that. But if you believe in doing that, write it down. This is what you believe. What you believe, what you think that you believe, write it down. Yes?
Just in line with Krishna consciousness or?
Anything. I believe being nice to people. I believe being fair in business. I believe in being truthful. I believe in being considerate. I believe in eating a lot of prasadam. Whatever you believe in. I believe in wearing dhoti, kurta, tilak, kanta. I believe it's good to get up early. I believe the little blue boy who plays the flute is God. I believe the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most important book, the best of all books. Whatever you believe. You're not going to have to read this to anybody, so don't worry. And don't even worry why I'm asking you to do this, just do it. And have at least 10 things you believe, okay? You probably believe 100 things, but at least have 10. I believe it's good to exercise every day. I believe it's good to exercise once a year. Whatever you believe. I believe the world's going to blow up December 21st. I believe it's important to read Bhagavad Gita. I believe it's important to chant 16 rounds a day. I believe all women are mother. I believe the deity is Krishna. So many things you believe, right? I believe I'm kind. I believe I'm humble. I believe I'm compassionate. What do you believe about yourself? Write something down about yourself. I believe I'm honest. Okay. Now, on another piece of paper or on the back of this paper, we need you to answer another question. But I need to explain this a little bit so you understand how to answer it. Maharaj and I have formed a new company. It's a private detective company. It follows people around and watches them. It's called Swami's Detective Services. And Swami's Detective Services last month had watched all of you 24 hours a day for 30 days. And the assignment for our employees was to tell the Swami what each of you believe based on our surveillance cameras in your house, us following you to work, us having cameras on you at work, cameras on you coming home. In other words, 24 hours a day, we had employees looking at what you did and what you said in order to come up with what they would conclude you believe. Okay. Should I give you an example how this might work? So one of the employees at Swami's detective company had your chart of what you think you believe. And on there it said, chanting Hare Krishna is my most important activity. But when they played the video back of your day's activities, you didn't really get your first rounds going until about 3 in the afternoon. So on their chart, they didn't write chanting is the most important activity. They wrote it was like the 5th most important, because you did like 5 other things that were important. You read the paper, you went to work, you spent 2 hours brushing your hair, choosing your clothes. So when the private eye employees, we asked what's their most important activity, they said something else. Maybe they said, well, by looking at their life, I think the most important activity is money, because it seems like everything's involved around making money, or how they look, or whatever. So you have to imagine now, you are looking at your life as one of these employees for Swami's detective services. And you're looking at your activities, and you're determining based on the activities what you believe. Does that make sense, or is everyone confused? So you said, I believe the Bhagavad Gita is the most important book. But within that 30-day period, you only read Bhagavad Gita for 5 minutes. Right? So by your actions, it's not what you believe. By your thoughts, you may think you believe it. So what we're trying to do is learn a little bit about what is not in alignment in our life with what we think we believe. So it's time for a joke. Who wants to hear a joke? So, one day, one young devotee, about 6 years old, went up to his father. He said, Pitaji, I have a question for you. I'm very confused. He said, yeah, what is it? He said, I don't get it. Is Mama's Bhagavad Gita better than your Bhagavad Gita? I said, what are you talking about? I just don't get it. Is Mama's Bhagavad Gita better than your Bhagavad Gita? He says, what are you talking about? He says, well, every day Mama reads her Bhagavad Gita, but I never see you reading your Bhagavad Gita. So I'm wondering, is hers better than yours? So that's an example of Bhagavad Gita is the most important book. I just haven't got around to reading it last year. Or Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of everything, and I just haven't read it much. So the private detectives looking on the screen are saying, he says Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence and everything, but he doesn't believe that because he never reads it. And every video of him in class, he's falling asleep. So I would guess that he doesn't like the Bhagavatam because he doesn't read it. When he comes to class, he falls asleep. So, are you ready to confront the reality of your lives? This is just for you. It's like we're going to share, but no one has to share anything specific, and we won't force you to share. This is just for you. So, write down what the private detectives would think you believe, and then look at both the charts, and then write your realizations from this exercise, whatever you learn from doing this. Just after you do this, write it down. Okay? Any questions anyone has about this? Yes?
Does it have to be in relation to what we just wrote?
It would be better if it was, but it doesn't have to be. But the more, you can be both. But it would be nice to look at those things and just clarify if what you believe is actually, you live what you believe or not by your life. That will help you. Yes?
I was just thinking that someone may say that, well, I believe in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, but it may not that have to read every day in terms of...
Yeah. So that's more. That's more. No, because the thing is, if you believed it, you'd read it. That's the point. We want to see the beliefs manifest. It's otherwise, it's things you'd like to believe. Okay, objectively, Bhagavad Gita is the best book, right? So you say, okay, I believe it's the best book, but we want to bring it to the point where beliefs are enacted in our life, because then we're aligned. Okay, if you really believe it's the best book, you'd be reading it. You know, I mean, you didn't miss any of the best movies, did you? Like Prabhupada says, did you ever miss a meal? He said, you miss your rounds, but you don't miss meals. So we want to go practical, where we can really confirm that this is what I believe deep down. So it's not just objective distance. Yes, objectively Shakespeare's writing is better than mine. Okay, but I don't read Shakespeare, so it doesn't mean anything. So we want to bring it into what it means in our life. You want to say something?
Yes, actually Krishna warns us in Bhagavad Gita, yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shradhaya chitum ichati tasya chalam shradha mam eva vididam yaham. Basically he's saying, he's speaking about the demigods, but we can understand it in relation to anything. Basically he's saying, whatever you put your faith in, which means basically what you dedicate yourself to through your daily activities, I will give you steadiness, I will make you fixed in that. So we have to be careful, because Krishna, can give you through Shastra a million reasons why to chant, why to get up early, why to do everything. And he can also give you millions of excuses through his external energy why not to do it. So again, that's what believing means. Krishna tells us, believing means what you dedicate yourself to. That's really what you believe in.
So one question, Gurudev. So between the belief and faith, belief can kind of mean uncertain?
Belief means, ultimately, what you believe in is what you put your faith in. That's what I really believe in. That's what I believe is the most important thing for me.
We have a song say, I believe I can fly.
Yes, so you can go on top of a building and invite a bird, and say, okay, let's see, we can do better.
But it doesn't mean that I can fly, but I can believe I can fly.
That's right.
But if I have faith.
But even if you have faith, then you better go to the airport.
You need faith in the laws of gravity. That's what you need faith. Although they have this workshop where people walk on hot coals. So there's some transformation physically because of faith, but that's another topic. Okay, let's just experiment and then look at both of your lists when you're finished and just kind of see. This whole topic is being brought up because we don't always live what we believe or so-called believe. So we want to see what kind of insight we get from this. So you'll write your realizations after you finish. And if you don't have any realizations, write down, I don't have any realizations 100 times. And maybe after the 50th time, something will come to your head. Okay? Just write something. Thank you. If you need a pen or paper, do we have, Tridandi, any more pens and papers? For those who need it, do you have any more? Anybody need pen or paper? In the back there they need. For those of you who've come, who weren't here the last 2 days, this workshop is a workshop where we do things. You know, we're doing exercises now. So during the exercise, if you're just sitting there doing nothing, then you have two choices. Either to do the exercise or not take part in the seminar, because it's not just for sitting. The exercises are what's going to help you. All the talking will just end up in one ear and out the other if you don't do the exercise. So, if you don't have paper or pen, raise your hand so you can do the exercises. Over here, she needs...
I have a paper.
Yeah, paper, you need a pen. Do we have extra pen? Anybody? Somebody has a pen in their bag, yeah, okay. Thank you. So after you do this exercise, write your realization. If you have no realization, write down in your realization, I don't know why I have no realization. What's wrong with me? Am I afraid to admit that I'm not what I think I am? Write your realization. You realize you're a pure devotee? Come in front of the camera. I can tell now. those of you who are online, do the exercise. Because everything in this seminar will happen through the exercises. Otherwise, it's a lot of theory, but exercises will bring this theory into the reality in your life. How many of you are still writing? Raise your hand. Okay. How much more time do we need? How many minutes? 2, 3, 5, 6. I've got 5, 5, 5, 5 going once, 5 going twice. Do I hear 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 5, 5, 5? Sold to the man with 5 fingers. Okay, 5 more minutes. Two more minutes to finish. Prabhupada, you want to be the microphone carrier? So we would, okay, camera has to be off now. In 1973, and I did a lecture on this. You can go to my website, I'll give you the address. This lecture was done in 1973. Let me explain the situation. He was a grihasta. At that time, he was probably at most 25, probably 24 years old. 25 maybe. His wife was probably 25 years old as well. Maybe he was 26. They had a son, the most was 1 year old. This devotee, for the most part, was living in the temple. His wife was living in an apartment near the temple. He liked living with the men. You could set your watch by what he was doing. When he got up, you knew it was 2 a.m. When he read Bhagavad Gita and chanted this shloka, you knew what time it was by the shloka he chanted. You knew what shlokas he chanted. Oh, Yasmin, Sarvani, but now it's Isopanishad time. It's 2:36 a.m. He was so exact and regulated. This is amazing, devotee. So he got inspired to take sannyas and leave his 25-year-old wife and his 1-year-old daughter. Very inspired in Krishna consciousness. He wrote Prabhupada a letter. I don't advise any of you writing a letter to your guru suggesting that you leave your 1-year-old son and 25-year-old daughter to take sannyas, but he was crazy enough to do that, and so he did it. Prabhupada said many things to him, but what relates to this discussion is very amazing. He said to Prabhupada said, amongst other things, do you not think you will be causing trouble by leaving your young wife and child? Do you not think this will be upsetting or difficult? Did you not consider this? Are you not considering this? And then Prabhupada quoted the verse. Do you own that letter now? Did you find it?
This is the one he wrote telling not to separate them.
This is another letter. And he said, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse that says, for he who no one is put into difficulty. Did you not consider this? So he was thinking, I'm very Krishna conscious, I'm very renounced, I'm very inspired to spread Krishna consciousness. But he was acting in a completely non-Krishna conscious way, and he had no insight into that. And Prabhupada had pointed out, so the devotee doesn't cause stress. So sometimes we're acting in ways which we think are very Krishna conscious, but actually are not. And we don't even realize it. So that's my confession. Now, Rajarshi, it's time for his to confess. I want to tell you something else. One more thing. In Christian religion, especially in Catholicism, confession is central to their teachings. You do something wrong, you go to a priest, and you say, Father, I stole a candy bar from the store. Father, I told a lie to my teacher. I told her I read this chapter, but I didn't. Of course, when you grow up, it gets worse. Father, I went out and cheated on my wife. Father, I stabbed somebody. You go and you confess. And the idea is to come before the sadhu, come before God and open yourself up and confess. This is what I did as a process of purification. Even in Nectar Devotion, there's a verse there where the devotee goes in front of the deity and confesses to the deity. It says, Krishna, I'm ashamed to confess to you all the sinful things I've done. And he comes to admit them. Bhaktivinoda wrote a song, Amara Jivana. That's a confession of his whole life. This is what I did. This is how I ruined my life. This is how materialistic I was. So confession is part of the process of bhakti. But it's not so ingrained within ISKCON as, okay, you get up, there's Mangal Artik, 16 rounds, greeting of the deities, confession, Bhagavatam class. No, it's not. After we greet the deities, everyone comes up and confesses to the deities. I didn't finish my rounds yesterday. I had a fight with my wife. This, that, and the next thing. We don't do that. But it's actually within our tradition, our philosophy, theology, confession is part of it. So this is kind of what we're doing now. This is kind of an opportunity to confess. That's very purifying. It's very humbling. And it's also a sign of humility that we're willing to admit that what we think we are and what we do sometimes are different. So Rajarshi is going to be the next to confess. Okay, we can turn it off. Yeah. Unless you
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's a little difficult to actually expose all the things that are within the heart, but at least what surfaces is that by Krishna consciousness knowledge, it's quite clear as to what I should be doing. Let me just give an example. Krishna is saying, you hear from me how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me with mind attached to me, you can know me in full. So I know that he is saying just always think of me, be my devotee, worship me. And I promise you, you'll come to me, you're very dear to me. But then I am observing that despite knowing this, there's like the little no entry area, a little closet in the heart that is hidden things are kept there. So it seems as though externally we can show many things that I'm doing so much service, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the worrying thing is that the things that I'm hiding there, who is going to take care of that? So this is where the real issue lies. So I remember reading some work long ago by Narahari Sakar Thakur, where he's saying that coming in an assembly of Vaishnavas and declaring my misbehavior would help to free me from that. Of course, I don't know how brave we are if we can do that. Mahatma Prabhu was speaking about confession in Christianity, going and confessing to the priest, but sometimes we are brave enough to ask someone. I remember asking Prabhupada Swami once about dealing with these internal things, and he said, he read somewhere about Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, well, write down all of them on a piece of paper, give with priority, which is the most difficult one that you're facing, you're dealing with, and focus, spend 5 years or so many years to eradicate that. In other words, confronting that. So I'm just getting the realization here that, as Mahatma Prabhu was saying, that if we don't confront inner things, nobody externally is going to deal with it. So we'll have to, work with those inner things. So that's, just my expression. Thanks. Hare Krishna.
And then
one Mataji. First, would like to go.
Hare Krishna. I just realized after writing just 10 things that I believe in, which there is more, or I think that I believe so much, that just 2 of them I'm doing, and those 2 are not even to the fullest. And it feels like a hypocrite because we preach about it, we tell other people to do this and to do that, and we don't do it. It's like we always quote, we say, do as I say, but don't do as I do. It's just, it's a little bit, it's a hard hit. And it's something to think about. Thank you.
When you confront this, then that first list is what you want to believe. And the second list is actually what you do believe. And so you can bring the first list to the second if you act on it. But until you act on it, it's just, we think we believe it, but it's really things we want to believe. Now, based on what you said, an interesting point comes. This is the Hare Krishna movement. In the Hare Krishna movement, we are trying to be sadhus, act as sadhus, compassionate, kind, and so forth. Plus, we believe in karma. And karma teaches whatever you do, you get a reaction. So based on all of this, there really shouldn't be any need whatsoever in the Hare Krishna movement for a course on forgiveness. Nobody should need it, because built into our philosophy is you only get what you put out. And there's no injustice, and you return hurt with kindness. Well, why even have a forgiveness class? Interesting, isn't it? You wanted to say something? But we're going to share also, but I just... Oh yeah. Anyway, I just thought that's an interesting thought, isn't it? That in theory, we shouldn't have a need for a course on forgiveness. In theory, no devotee should have any resentment. So it's interesting that we do, isn't it?
Thank you very much, Mahatma Prabhu. We're going to try a little one here. We take one that was, sorry. Anyway, you get up. I was thinking that you take the eldest and you take the smallest, and then anybody else will fit in with it. We'll try that just for you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Mahatma Das Prabhu to give me an opportunity again to realize what am I. And I wrote 10 beliefs, and on the next page it get wrong. And first of all, what my realization is that finally I don't have any beliefs. That for the time being, I was expecting that everyone should believe me. But now I came to know that if I don't have any beliefs, so how I can expect anyone to believe me? And I'm thinking that whatever I did in Krishna consciousness, I was always unconscious. So, really it helps me, and now I'm really thinking that I don't deserve to be called as a devotee, because I don't know why they will call me as devotee, but in reality I don't deserve to be called as. And I think so I'm the biggest demon in a dhoti kurta, kuntimala and all these things.
Thank you very much.
We're joining the Krishna unconsciousness movement.
One, Mataji. The mic will go to anyone if you...
Well, see, we always tell the women to be shy, but now we say don't be shy.
The mic might come to anyone.
You write it down? Say it. Share your realization.
Hare Krishna. After writing the second list, I would have realized that I would take quite a few things in Krishna consciousness for granted, and I feel ungrateful to Srila Prabhupada. Prasad.
I want to hear his realization.
Yeah, we want to give Haridev because we said if Rajarshi Prabhu can give and if Haridev can give, then we all fit in between. So
My realization after comparing the two lists were that whatever I said I believe, I didn't really do because I have more don'ts than do. And my realization is that I should start doing the things that I believe I should do, that I don't do.
How old are you? Very good.
he's 12 and he had a lot of opportunities, so he would have done Vaishnava etiquette course while he was, yeah. So that's not surprising. Let's see, Priya Mataji.
Whatever you like. And just keep showing your hands up, otherwise you never know what will happen.
Hare Krishna.
And there will be no prasadam until everybody gives their realization.
I would realize after my second list is that whatever I believe is not exactly what I do, and most of the times I don't find the time to do it. So I realize that our action should be based on what we believe. Hare Krishna.
Can I have the mic?
Well, there's another way of saying that. When you actually believe it, then you do it. So you look at this and say, do I really believe chanting my 16 rounds is the most important thing? And when you finally believe that, that's what you'll give it priority in your life. And the reason we don't give it priority is because we don't believe it. Although we believe it on paper. Of course, the Shastra says that. But we have to believe what the Shastra says. Regarding, what's your name? Jitesh. Jitesh said, I'm not a devotee. Prabhupada said, we're trying to be devotee. He said, we're not devotees, we're trying to be. He said, devotee is a big thing. It's a big word. We're trying to be devotees. So that was the right realization. We're trying to be. And Prabhupada also said, first become conscious, then become Krishna conscious. So, first become a human and then think about becoming a devotee. Kind of like that. Okay.
Jitesh and Girish, this other one there, he is Girish. They just arrived from Mumbai and where? Indore. And they came to study here in Guyana, next to ISKCON Pandita Center. So it's just bad luck for them.
No, we are very fortunate.
Wow. Somehow or other we had a problem with this area. Throughout the whole last 10 days, this area had been very silent. Right, Ashwin?
He is hiding.
Hare Krishna. Many of the things I believe in, I would say that they are more long-term principles. It's kind of a little tense moment to speak all that in my heart like the others did.
After 35 years, it won't make
So, I'd just like to express my realization. As I try to apply myself in practical ways, to the process of Krishna consciousness and what the Shastra and Vaishnava acharyas declare for us to execute or follow, I can see how I'm lacking in so many ways as a devotee. I'm able to identify so many anarthas that I possess. Some of them that I feel is difficult to execute, like always being tactful and to deal appropriately to individuals. Cases where I may be insensitive and may result in person taking offenses. I resort to praying to the Lord to guide and help me, and I acknowledge that the answers or getting the ability to act perfectly will take time, and I simply have to persevere. Indeed, there's some inward joy when there's certain things are made possible by the grace of the Lord, and I know that it's not coming from me, but it's all due to the Lord's causeless mercy, and I'm always thankful for that.
Thank you very much, Holiness Group. What do you all think? I should walk and come there, or we should continue here a little bit more? Continue here a little bit more. Okay. So Jaigar.
We had two students just came out of CXC, one 7 grade 1, one 9 grade 1, so we'll have to hear them also. Jaigar.
Hare Krishna. So I would have listed a number of things that I thought I believed, which turned out to be, I happen to believe only one, or I think I believe only one up to now. So I'm feeling that I need to do some work, and I'm praying in my mind to try to believe what I thought I believed.
Next in line is Madan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. First of all, what I have believed in, what I think I have believed in, I didn't do any of it. I'm trying to do like 2 of them. I just know that I'm not really being just a proper devotee, so I need to do a lot of work, and I just beg for the mercy of all the Vaishnavas. Please bless me so that I can really be able to do whatever I believe in. Hare Krishna.
So that is a good realization. That please bless me, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. If I really realize that, we good? Okay. Sorry. Couple more.
Hare Krishna, everyone. When I actually look at the 2 lists I made, I can see clearly that not everything I execute. So I'm made to realize that we may learn certain principles from the Vedic scripture, from Prabhupada, but if we look in our lives, we haven't really applied it. So what we do is we regurgitate. We just take it in and we just tell someone else, but we don't really look at how much we have actually applied it to our life. And what I plan to do about it is I plan to look at this list and try to make the 2 equal.
Haribol!
Next in line. Gopi, you write down your realization. We don't want to share your writing. Just want to realize it. Next.
Hare Krishna. When I read out my first list and I look at my second list, there is hardly any comparison I could make. And I realized that the path that I'm trending is completely or next to completely different. And I should, well, the conclusion is that I should alter my lifestyle. Hare Krishna.
Haribo!
Save the best for last. Who's dying to share? One more devotee. One last devotee.
Share your realization. The mic is with you.
Who will die if they...
We wouldn't leave until you share your realization with us.
Hare Krishna. I realized that if someone else were to look at me, comparing my things that I believe and the other list, they would conclude that only I would know what I believe in. They wouldn't know what I believe in because by my actions they would judge that I believe in something else. So that's it.
Haribo!
Anybody want to be finally, very kind? Thank you very much. That you want to raise your hand or your hands and
He'll
say.
be the last. One more.
So he was the last. That's
Hare Krishna. When I wrote my forces, it looked amazing on paper. But on the second one, then I realized that, okay, I do not practice what I believe. And that made me just like Ope Prabhu said, devotee with just tilakot and dhoti. And in this thing, I just want to thank Mahatma Prabhu and Maharaj for this realization. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much, and you just pray that Mahatma Prabhu never give me this mic again.
I really think we need a rapper, other than a street rapper, to come up by Sunday with a rap.
Yeah, we have 3 of them. There is Dronacharya, Haridev, and where's the other? Madan and Dattavara.
So for the end of the seminar, it'd be nice to have a rap, something like Tori Kurta Tila Kanti, I think I'm a big devotee. Something like that. So just give you some idea. You inspire us with a little entertainment, and this might be the I'll let them do these. And this might be the song to remember, this to be the song of the seminar. So I'll remember the seminar with this song. So Maharaj is going to kind of encapsulate what's been going on here in the last exercise.
First of all, I wanted to say also that that agency belongs to another Swami, because I was always thinking I was intelligent, but that agent has enlisted many people to show me and convince me that I'm not. So I'm very thankful for that agency. Bring me to a point of conciliation with my own beliefs. So I just wanted to mention I was thinking of 2 instances where someone believed something and believed something about themselves and found out later that it wasn't that way. When Ramanujacharya, one of his favorite disciples was Dhanurdas, who was a wrestler. Dhanur means fighting. So he was a wrestler, but Ramanuja would, sometimes embrace him and he would help him, walk hand in hand or with his arm around his shoulder, helping Ramanuja to go from one place to another. And many of the Brahmins and sannyasis were thinking, well, who is this person? We're so qualified. We know Shastra. We're renounced. So they were complaining like that. So Ramanuja. Oh, Hare Krishna. So Ramanuja, I don't know, there's two audiences here. So Ramanuja, he actually told one of the devotees to go up and take some of the cloth upstairs when it was hanging drying. And some of the Brahmins and sannyasis and brahmacharis came down and complained that, who took my cloth? I'm a Brahmin, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a qualified devotee. Who could possibly take my cloth? So Ramanuja, he said, so you should see, your renunciation. But now I'll show you what is an attached householder. And that's done with our. Actually, he's gone out for his daily duties. So I want some of you Brahmins, I want you to go to his house, and I want you to bring me some gold and valuable things. Then when he comes back, you will see what an attached person is. So they thought, wow, this is our chance that we're going to show this. He's never going to be embraced by Ramanuja again. So so two Brahmins went there. Of course, they weren't very expert at thieves. Hopefully not, but at least in those days. So they came into the house. His wife was resting, and they saw she had some beautiful golden bracelets and earrings. So they were trying to be as quiet as possible. They took the bracelets from her hand while she was sleeping, but she was awake. But she saw these are Brahmins, these are the servants of our Guru Maharaj. And then they took the gold earrings, so she thought, well, there must be a big need in the ashram. So she turned over to reveal the other side, and that scared them. They ran off, and then her husband came home, and she said, she told him what happened, and she said how she had turned to the other side. He said, you foolish woman, that means you were attached and you scared them away. You were thinking that you were helping them, but actually you're attached. So let us go immediately and give these ornaments to our Guru Maharaj. So they came there. The Brahmins had already delivered what they had. They were waiting for, Dattavara to come in and scream, where is my? Somebody robbed me. And so he came in, and they immediately came in and said, Guru Maharaj, there must be some need. Some of the Brahmins came to get some gold and ornaments. So here, everything that we have is simply your property. You are the representative of Lord Vishnu, and everything is. So the Brahmins hung their heads down and said, here's a grihastha, but he's giving everything to Krishna. We're complaining about a little piece of cloth now that we've lost. So they believed, big Brahmins, learned, intelligent, renounced, but they learned what reality was, what real renunciation is. And another little incident, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met with Ballabhacharya, who was Shri Ballabha at that time. So Shri Ballabha invited him for lunch at his house, which was on the other side of the Yamuna. So Mahaprabhu and Ballabha got in the boat, and they were on their way. Of course, Mahaprabhu, when he saw the dark blue waters of the Yamuna, he jumped in, and and the devotees, he was rocking the boat, dancing. He jumped in, the devotees pulled him out, and the boat was rocking, and Shri Ballabha was very frightened. He probably wasn't a very good swimmer, and so that kind of showed that, his high philosophy of detachment and everything he wasn't fully realized in it. Then, when they got to the other side, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized that he's a very proud scholar. So on the other side they met Rupa Goswami. And so he said, Mahaprabhu said, this is Rupa. He's a very wonderful devotee. And so Shri Ballabha went over to approach him, and Rupa Goswami said, oh no, I'm very fallen. And then Mahaprabhu said very sarcastically, yes, he's very, very fallen. Don't, you're a Brahmin, a Paka Brahmin. He's a very qualified Brahmin. And he's just, he comes from a low class, he was working with the Muslims, Bedouin. So immediately Vallabhacharya realized, I thought I was a big Brahmin. But now he's speaking sarcastically and cynically, saying that actually he is the most qualified by his humility, by his devotional qualities. So even amongst great scholars and great personalities, unless we're fully surrendered to Krishna, surrendered to the holy name, we'll always have a higher conception of ourselves. And of course Krishna arranges through these things, as Mahatma Prabhu has been saying, arranges so many things in our lives that help us realize the dichotomy, the difference between what my false ego, my ahankar conception of myself, and really where I'm at. So we should welcome these things and feel, this is what I need. Actually, Krishna is more interested in what you're hiding, as Rajarshi Prabhu was saying. He's interested in that little corner, although it may be very small, but it may be very small, but it might be atomic energy, or a little tiny particle with a lot of volume when it explodes. So Krishna is interested in pulling that out, letting us realize what it is, because Krishna loves us and he wants us to come back home, back to Godhead. So we shouldn't resist when Krishna tries to bring these things out through the different things that are happening in our lives. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we are scheduled to have prasadam at 5. So the first thing I need to know is, does anybody know if it will be ready at 5?
Yes.
Yes. 5 means 5?
Yes.
Okay. We have 2 exercises to do. I don't know if we can do them in 15 minutes, but we'll do the 2 exercises and then we'll take a break. And these exercises are fun. Probably we can do it in about 20 minutes or so. So I need a devotee who's tall enough to write from the top to the bottom, who's fast enough to write super. Actually, I need 2 devotees because they both need to write, because we're going to ask you all a question and you're going to answer very quickly, more quickly than one person can write down. So I need 2 devotees who spell well and write well. And either 2 men or 2 women, unless the man and woman they're married. So we have any volunteers?
School teachers,
So Prabhupada Day will figure this one out. Who to point to? Can you point to? Come. Please come. Quickly, man, come. No time wasting, man. Everybody hungry. You got to come to. We need one more. So, we're going to need your participation answering this question. We're doing a cost-benefit analysis. In business, you analyze what things cost and what benefits you get. It's called a cost-benefit analysis. So we're going to do the cost-benefit analysis for resentment. Now you may think this is a strange question. I'm going to ask you, what benefits do you get by holding on to resentment? And you're thinking, well, from what I've seen so far in this workshop, I'm just getting misery and suffering and so forth. So I'm not getting any benefit. But that's not true. Because nobody does anything unless there's some benefit. Yes or no?
Of course.
You get up in the morning thinking, I'm going to do something that has absolutely no benefit. Unless you woke up in a mental institution, you wouldn't think like that, right? You're always analyzing what's the benefit. So if we're holding on to resentment, it's because we are getting something. Whether you believe it or not, Believe me, it's true. You wouldn't hold on to it if you weren't getting something. So we want to ask all of you, what do you get by holding on to it? And we're going to make a list. So, just yell it out and they'll write it down. Put your thinking cap on. You know what a thinking cap is? It makes your brain work better. Yeah, just
I think you're just satisfying your ego, false ego.
just a false ego, yeah. Satisfying your false ego.
Enjoy hurting others.
Enjoy?
Hurting others.
Enjoy hurting others, yeah. It's a big benefit.
Right, big.
What? Oh, we'll read them over again, yeah. You can write a little bigger, yeah? What? You had something? What? You can have fun tormenting people. Yeah, see, I told you kids are bad. That's fun for kids, and it's really fun if they're girls. It's like double fun if you can torment a girl. What else? You get to blame somebody, yeah. Everybody needs somebody to blame. That'd be a good rap. Yeah, what else? Feels good. Be on top of somebody, control them, yeah. You get to be right? Reward. You get a reward. And you get to be right also. Everybody likes to be right, don't they? You like to be wrong?
No.
You like to stand up in front and everybody can tell you what's wrong with you? I don't think so. You like to win an argument?
Whenever something happens to that person, maybe some mishaps in their life, I justify as they can.
Oh yeah. They deserve it, right?
They deserve it.
Yeah. So you get...
I quote
So what, how do you... Yeah, alright, just say you deserve it. You get to justify it. It's another form of justification. Yes?
It makes you feel that you're always right and everyone else is wrong.
Yes. Yeah, we got that. Be right, yeah. And they're wrong. As you can put that. You're right, they're wrong. It confirms that they're wrong. As we said on the first night, if you forgive them, you might think that you're admitting they're right. So better not forgive them. That proves they're wrong. Yes?
I always knew I was better.
Confirming you're better. Proving you're better. What else? What else do you get? There's some good benefits you're missing out on.
I feel proud.
Proud. Superior. You can control the other person. You can blackmail them. Oh. Be I didn't hear. Be happy to forgive. But this is not forgiving. This is the benefit you get from not forgiving.
Always in anxiety.
But that's not really a benefit. That's a cost. We do the cost later. This is the benefits. And you're a stage beyond. You're happy to forgive. But before you forgive.
Satisfy your desire for revenge.
Yeah, satisfy your desire for revenge. What else?
Nice and cool. Nice and cool.
Nice and cool. What does that mean? You're cool in Guyana if you hate everybody? You're the coolest guy around because you hate more people? You avoid undesirable company, meaning you don't have to hang out with them? You can avoid them, yeah. You don't have to hang out with them.
Wish more things could happen to them. Wish more things could happen to them.
Wish?
More things.
Oh, yeah, so wish more bad things can happen, or create more bad things, or try to make bad things.
People are afraid of you.
Oh, you make them afraid of you. You do that again, I'll put your picture on the internet and tell the world what you did.
Angry.
Yeah, justification for being angry. It's natural to be angry, yeah.
You got something to talk about?
Say that again. It's something to talk about like for the next 20 lifetimes, right? Yeah. I mean, like, you know, like I was saying, things can get pretty boring. You know, this is like exciting. You know, you talk about this, right? We could actually have a whole newspaper. We could call it the Prajalpster. And it'd be so juicy, right? All the bad things about all the bad people. Wow. The Gramya Gazette. Yeah, we'd get rich. We could support our temple that way. Yeah. Feeling that we're dominant. Yeah, give us a feeling that we're dominant. Say that again in English.
You get to make more friends on this.
Oh, because there are more people against them? You get, so you'll have more friends because they're all against that person. Or you'll get your friends against them. Yeah. Nice. Good devotee there. This is what you learn in ISKCON, right? What else?
Maybe a justification for not going to the temple.
Justification for not going out to the temple. That temple president's an idiot. I'm never going to the temple again. You know what he does? Did you hear what he does? I'm not going to go to a temple where a president does that. In fact, I'm not even going to chant my rounds with the temple president that does that. Right? It gets that bad. You can get so hurt by what someone does, just go, that's it, I'm not chanting anymore. Seriously.
Hold back that donation.
Yeah. Until this guy's out, I'm not giving my donation. Yeah.
Find fault with the good things to do. Bring them down with the good things to do. Bring the good things to do, you bring them down.
Oh, bring the good things. So minimize, overlook the good things, magnify the bad things.
That we are uncontrollable, that we are not under anyone.
You're uncontrollable, or you're
No, if we torment someone, they feel that
you're superior?
Yeah, uncontrollable, that no one have power on us.
Oh yeah, all powerful. Yeah, feel powerful. Let him say first. Oh yeah, you don't have to have any etiquette in dealing with them. You can deal with them like a piece of dirt. You get away with it. After all, they don't deserve to be treated well because of what they did.
Attitude.
What? Independence. Treat them like cow dung. That's a polite way of using the other word we shouldn't use. Yeah. You know. Yeah. You had something? You had something.
You get to be popular.
Oh. You get to be popular. The one who hates someone else is popular in Guyana, huh? That's how it works here? So you guys are okay. You're innocent. Suriname. What do you call the people in Suriname? Surinamis?
Yes.
Yes.
Resentment compensates for our weaknesses.
Compensates for weakness. So I have have good excuse to be weak. Similar to what she said, yeah. Justification for weakness. Justification for failure. Well, of course I'm a failure. That's because, when I was 10, this happened. What do you expect? Yes?
When you're advancing, we do things to hold them back. In other words, we get some kind of happiness from that.
Happiness of holding people down. What verse is that? What scripture is that? The non-Bhagavad Gita? That one? The happiness of holding somebody down, that's amazing. This kid is really bad. I don't know, maybe we have to take off his Dodi Kortakina. This is a bad PR for us. Okay, there's one you missed that's really good. You get people's sympathy. Because, oh, you poor thing, this person hurt you so much. And then if you're that kind of person that wants sympathy, then you'll get all your friends' sympathy. And if you forgive them, you won't get any sympathy again. So it's better hold on to the resentment. Anyway, you get the idea, right? It's kind of madness. I mean, that's the whole point of this exercise, that these are all crazy things to hold on to resentment for. These are not Krishna conscious things, are they? This just happened to, yes?
This list is the present ISKCON.
Yeah. This is the constitution of ISKCON, right? This is how we guide our activities, make sure. Unfortunately, many of these activities do enter our organization. So, let's go down the chart again, just so we can remind ourselves. These are the benefits.
You want me to read?
Yeah, why don't you read, because your handwriting is only legible to a few rare souls who have the eyes to see.
I apologize, but I'm not a good writer. Satisfy false ego, it's fun, feels good. Being right, they're wrong, proud, nice and cool. Try to make bad things happen to the person we are holding resentment. Anger justification. Something to talk about. Making like-minded friends. Hold back services. Being powerful, independence. Enjoy hurting others. Get to blame someone. Get a reward. Deserved karma. It is their deserved karma. Conforming, you're better. Superior. Satisfy your desire to resent. Avoid undesirable things. Make them afraid of you. Feelings of superiority. Justification of not going to temple. Overlook good things. Magnify wrong things. Attitudes. To get people's sympathy, justification of weaknesses.
Okay, so now, so each of you can think what you're getting from your resentment that's on that list, or maybe there's something else that's not on it, but this is for reflection. If any of that list, you get an idea that that's why you're holding on to it. Just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a devotee, I'm supposed to be, and I'm holding on to resentment so I can make somebody feel bad. What kind of devotee is that? Right? I mean, just look at ourselves. So now we're going to do the cost. What's it costing us? So you can write cost on the top there. Cost-benefit analysis. So we get all these benefits. How much does it cost? What are we paying for holding on to resentment?
Pain.
Pain. Losing Krishna's mercy. Losing time. High blood pressure. It's true. It's true. He's right.
Resulting in a huge medical doctor bill.
Yeah, big doctor bills. This actually, it's all documented. There's so many diseases caused by resentment.
Result in being negative.
Negative. You'll become very negative. Cost of your... You'll stop being mercy. Yeah, you lose your compassion. Cost you your compassion.
Going to hell.
Cost you lose your ticket to Vaikuntha. You lose your mind? No, this is
cost.
The cost of being resentful. Lose your mind. Stressed. Always stressed. Lose your peace? No.
No, impede spiritual growth.
Oh, impedes spiritual growth, yes, definitely.
Contaminates your consciousness.
Contaminates your consciousness.
You stop being Krishna conscious, you keep focusing on their faults.
Yeah, you lose your Krishna consciousness.
Offenses.
You accumulate more offenses. Causes you to lose energy or expend energy, waste energy. Definitely, that's a big one.
You lose out on the real Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, you lose out on getting to the essence of Krishna consciousness.
Opens the door to Yamaloka.
Opens the door to Yamaloka. Yeah, that was a free pass to Yamaloka. All expenses paid. Okay, it's time for a joke. Since you like jokes, right? I don't know. Maybe not in front of Didi, sorry. At least when the curtains are closed. I don't know. It's not. Jokes are Krishna conscious, bona fide or not? Prabhupada said laughing is a Vaishnava sport. So I don't know, maybe Lord Chaitanya is merciful. How many of you have been to India? So, for those of you who haven't been to India, I don't know if this is true in Guyana, but in India, a lot of things don't work. Especially in the early days when we went to India. You know, you'd go somewhere and say, there'd be lines for 3 blocks. And why? Well, the machine's not working, or there's no electricity. So that's very common in India. Did you know that? Did you know that? Indian thing, you buy some Indian thing and it's really cool and the next day it doesn't work. So that's very common in India. So this man is trying to go to hell.
Prabhu, I have clarification.
Oh,
It's not Indian things, it's Chinese.
That ruins my joke though. But when I first went to India, they had no Chinese things. Nothing works. He's born in the Chinese era. So this took place before the Chinese era when nothing in India worked. So this man, he's got to go to hell, and so he's got some choices. You can go to the American hell, the European hell, or the Indian hell. So he checks out the American hell, and they explain what goes on. You go here, and there's this machine that chops you up, and there's this machine that burns you and then grinds you. Then he goes to the European hell. He said, well, what's this hell like? Same thing, the machine that burns, grinds, chops. But he goes to Indian hell, huge lines for miles and miles. Everybody's lined up for this hell. Everyone got sentenced to hell, but they're in the Indian hell. So he goes and checks it out, how does this hell work? And he said, well, they have this grinding machine, chopping machine, burning machine. But he's asking the people, why did you come to Indian hell? He said, oh, Indian hell is much better. I said, why? He said, because the machines never work. Hare Krishna.
Next one here. If you want to continue.
True, right? He's trying to blame it on China. Okay, what else?
Lose friends.
Lose friends.
And lose trust.
Lose trust. Cost you your friends. Cost you your friends. No, you become depressed, yeah? Anyway, you get the idea, right? There's many things it's costing us, but actually there's research on the connection between resentment and stress, right? Resentment and illness. There's a lot of research, and there's more research being done, because they say that resentment is an intense form of stress, and stress wears the body out. And so they're doing research to show that many serious diseases are a result of stress. And resentment is one of the greatest forms of stress. So it's just good for your own health to love people, like people, treat people well. Okay, so How many of you are having concerns about holding on to your resentment after doing this exercise? How many of you are thinking it doesn't look like such a good idea anymore? Yeah. It's kind of crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? I mean, especially, we want to be Krishna conscious. And this is so bad for our Krishna consciousness. Isn't it? So, anyway, we're going to take prasadam. We're going to come back at 6, around 6. Let's say 6, if we can get the serve out done quickly. And then we'll have some more fun. Okay, we have 2 more hours tonight. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.